Okay, so our main goal for this problem is to find tangent of 225 degrees. That's number 2 right here. But in order to do that, we're going to go ahead and build up toward it by performing problem 1. We want to find the reference angle to 225 degrees. Now, as you start getting more and more familiar with the unit circle, you'll be able to do most of this in your head. It seems like a lot of work, but as you progress, it'll come more and more naturally to you. But as of right now, let's go ahead and just start as if we've never done this before. So, finding the reference angle to 225 degrees. Remember, we have a reference angle chart, which I've already created over here, that says if you start in quadrant 1, meaning you're between 0 degrees and 90 degrees, then you already have your reference angle. You don't need to do anything else. That is the angle you're looking for. But if you're not in quadrant 1, say if you're in quadrant 2, which is between 90 and 180 degrees, then you have to subtract the angle that you currently have from 180 degrees, and that will give you your reference angle in quadrant 1. Likewise, if you're between 180 degrees and 270 degrees, then you have to subtract 180 degrees from your angle. And finally, if you're between 270 degrees and 360 degrees, then you will subtract your angle x from 360 degrees, and again that will give you your reference angle in quadrant 1. So in this case, 225 degrees. 225, if we start rotating counterclockwise, is between 180 degrees and 270 degrees. So we are in quadrant 3. So in quadrant 3, it says we need to take our angle and subtract 180 degrees from it. So 225 degrees minus 180 degrees is going to leave us with 45 degrees. 45 degrees is our reference angle. It lies in quadrant 1 between 0 and 90. So that's part 1. Part 2 is to find tangent of 225 degrees. Now the reason why this relies on part 1 is because when you're finding trig function values, you can use the reference angles. In other words, for instance, 120 degrees is going to give the same trig function values as if you had 60 degrees. If we did a quick check, 120 degrees is in quadrant 2. If you subtract 120 from 180, you'll end up getting a reference angle of 60 degrees. These reference angles, they're called reference angles because, again, they have the same trig function values as each other. The only difference is the sign, whether it's positive or negative. And that's where our table of ASTC, or All Students Take Calculus, comes in. Remember, this A means all trig functions are positive here, S means sine is positive, tangent is positive, and cosine is positive. So, once we find our reference angle, we just have to check where our original angle was located. If it's located in quadrant 1, then no matter what happens, our trig function will be positive. If it's located in quadrant 2, then only sine will be positive. If it's located in quadrant 3, then only tangent will be positive, and in quadrant 4, only cosine will be positive. So if we do a quick check here, before we do any reference angle work or anything like that, 225 degrees is again located in quadrant 3. And in quadrant 3, tangent is positive, which means tangent of 225 degrees is equal to the positive, or equal to a positive number times tangent of its reference angle. In this case, its reference angle is what we just found up here. 45 degrees is the reference angle of 225. So tangent of 225 degrees is equal to the positive times tangent of 45 degrees. And if you hopefully have started working with your unit circle, then at this point you would work out what tangent of 45 degrees is, and we know that tangent of 45 degrees is 1. So tangent of 225 degrees is equal to 1. Let's go ahead and try one more of these out. So a part 3, let's try sine of 330 degrees. So sine of 330 degrees, again, we need to start by finding our reference angle. In this case, it's not done for us in part 1. So 330 degrees, if we go to our chart, is located between 270 and 360, which means it's in quadrant 4. So we need to subtract our 330, which is our x in this case, from 360. So we get 360 degrees minus 330 degrees gives us a reference angle of 30 degrees. Which means sine of 330 degrees is going to be equal to sine of 30 degrees. But hopefully you thought to yourself, wait, we skipped a step, because we did. We still have to fill in this gap here that I left empty for whether it's positive or negative. So again, 330 degrees we said is in quadrant 4. In quadrant 4, only cosine is positive, which means sine is negative. So sine of 330 degrees is equal to the negative sine of 30 degrees. And again, if you've started working with your unit circle, hopefully you could know that sine of 30 degrees is equal to 1/2, so we get negative 1/2. And that is equal to sine of 330 degrees.